Video வேணும்.
வேண்டாம். Present now. Continue screen. PPT என்ன வரலைங்க. PPT தான் வரணும்.
PPT தேவை please.
Yes, ma'am. Is the PPT visible in the full screen mode?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes,
It's
ma'am.
perfect.
Yeah, now it is okay, ma'am.
Okay, ma'am. We will start the session.
Yes,
Kalivani ma'am, நான் start பண்ணிக்கிறேன்.
yes, ma'am. You can start the meeting, ma'am.
Yes. Good afternoon to one and all. On behalf of Department of ECE, Savitha Engineering College, I welcome you all to day 3 of FD3 on embedded and real-time systems. Today's session will be handled by Ms. Sivaranjani, working for TVS Training and Services, Chennai. She has enough experience in embedded systems. She has handled customers like Ashok Leyland, Lucas TVS, Delphi TVS, Royal Enfield, etc., DET and GET induction programs. She has also handled workshops and training for BPCL, Sundaram Clyde and Kellogg's, etc. Also, she has conducted workshops with leading institutions in and around Chennai on embedded and IoT program languages, etc. Happy to have such an eminent personality amidst us today. She'll be handling the session today for us on embedded programming. I request all the participants to get benefited from the session by clarifying your doubts at the end. Now, I request Ms. Sivaranjani to take over the session. Thank you, ma'am. Participants, kindly mute yourself throughout the session, both audio and video. Also, don't present your screens during the session. Thanks for your cooperation. Ma'am, the session is yours now.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. So thank you for the wonderful introduction. So welcome you all to the webinar session on embedded programming. Good afternoon, everyone who are present in this forum. So the agenda of our today's program is all about how are you going to learn embedded programming with respect to the hardware as well as the firmware aspects. So that is what we are going to learn. So in this particular session, first of all, we will just let into what is embedded systems. So anybody has any idea about embedded systems? I hope you are having the embedded sessions for the past 2 days. Hope you will be having some idea about it. Can any one of you share what is embedded systems? Anyone from the participant end, can you just tell me what is embedded systems? You can unmute yourself and you can just give your answers. Yes, participants, any response from your side?
It's an integration of hardware and software designed for a particular application.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you for your response. So it is all about, it is a combination of hardware and firmware development with respect to the software developer. And these two things are used for a performance of dedicated task. That is all about the dedicated applications which we are talking about. It's not about your general purpose application. It should be of dedicated application. So that is what your embedded system. This is how we are calling your embedded system as a dedicated system. So once we are getting into the embedded system introduction, we know how the embedded systems should function. What are all the components that should be present in the embedded systems? So for example, when you are just taking the major blocks, that is the major important components of your embedded system are all about, it should have an input. The input which we will be receiving from the external environment. In the sense you will be able to get the information via some of the sensors, switches, anything it can be. That is, it needs to provide some of the information as input to you. So it can be of any type. It can be a physical activity or it can be an electrical activity, whatever it may be. But if you are going to the next step, which is going to be the process element, this process element is all about your microcontrollers. We talked about this microcontroller is going to be performing its application only for the dedicated tasks. So whatever input you are receiving from the external environment should be given to this process element, but this process element will accept only electrical quantity. So what you need to do is you are getting the information from the external environment as a physical quantity. That quantity has to be converted into an electrical quantity. After that only you are giving it to the process element, which is a microcontroller. It is a semiconductor device, as we all aware of it. But because this semiconductor device will accept only a 5 volt voltage, that is a DC volt. So that is your microcontroller. When you are getting into the third major functional part is going to be your output. The output can be any indicators. It can be actuators, it can be a display indicator, it can be of anything. So you have an input from the external environment that needs to be processed via the microcontroller with some of the embedding elements, and that will provide you some of the indications as the output. This is all about your embedded system functions. So can you, any one of you, list some of the examples based on this explanation for embedded systems? Whatever we are undergoing in our day-to-day life, some may be the examples of embedded systems. Can any one of you share from the participants end? The electronic gadgets which we are using in our in our day-to-day life, which is based on embedded systems development. So can anyone of you share? Sorry?
In chat box, washing machine, mobile phone,
Yes.
they are given as examples. Alarm clock.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Thank you, participants. Thank you for your fantastic answers. Yes, whatever you are saying is in line with the embedded systems. So, for example, if we take one of the example which you have given us, washing machine. So, when we compare this with the previous explanation, how this input process and the output will be functioning with respect to a washing machine. What is the input you require for a washing machine? It is all about you require water, you require clothes, detergent, and major thing is electricity. I have all these external environments with me, but what needs to be done? It needs to be processed, right? So in the processing stage, for example, that depends upon the input you are giving to the machine. For example, what is the cloth, what type of cloth I am going to give. So based on that, I'll be setting up the mode, right? So it is all about the process element will take care of these things. If you're going with a cotton cloth, you will be going with some other mode. With respect to that mode, it will define you the temperature as well as the time period which it will take for doing the process. So all these things are under the process element. So the microcontroller will take care of this selection. Whenever I'm going with knob 1, that is knob switch mode 1 selection means it is going with cotton cloths. If I'm going with 2, it is going with synthetic. Maybe cotton cloth will require some more time to wash, but synthetic doesn't require that much time. So it depends upon the process element who is going to be the judge, best judge for you. So you have written lot of, what to say, codes, we will call it as lot of instructions for different tasks. So according to your selection, you are going to process the functional part. So that is all about your process element. And what is the output you will be getting from this? All about it is the same thing. You will be getting a washed and cleaned clothes from the washing machine. That is your output. So this is the best explanation for your embedded systems, how it is functioning, how the input is taken, where the processing part is done, and what is the output you will be getting. I hope you got some explanation about this. Let's get into the design part of it. We know what is embedded system, how it is going to function, what are all the major blocks in this. Yes, agreeing with that. So now what you need to do in order to make the system like this, what I need to do, how am I going to design? So the design aspect, the very major part of it is you should not design the system as like a general purpose computer. Like you are having a laptop or a computer, general purpose computer with you. So that is developed for generic application. Any sort of software, you will be able to load it into it and you will be able to work on it, right? But if your system which is dedicatedly designed for some of the particular function means it should be performing that function alone, right? So we are talking about embedded system, it is for dedicated application. Then the system design, when you are going to design a system, you should keep it in mind, it should not be a general purpose system, it should be a dedicated purpose system. So in order to go for this dedicated purpose system, what are all the two things you need to talk about? So we already talked about embedded system is integration of your hardware and your software. So these two things has to be designed. It is not independently, you have to do it dependent. One is dependent on the others. That's why we are calling it as hardware and software should be co-designed. So I'm not going to take a software environment which is independent of hardware. I'm going to select a hardware. According to the hardware selection, I'm going to take the software which I need to program for it. Then I will be able to get the dedicated application design. So this is how you need to design. You have to keep it in mind. The hardware and the software has to be designed together. It is not about a waterfall model. It should be a cyclic model. Hardware has to be designed, software has to be tested. Again, hardware has to be checked with that. So this is just like a cyclic model. It's not to be like a waterfall model. I have designed the hardware, you go with the software. Not like that. It should be of a cyclic model. It should be designed together. I'm repeating it again. These two things has to be designed together. Without that, the system cannot be a functional system. The most challenging part is the major part is your hardware and software, which should be co-designed. So when we talk about design, so where this particular embedded system is applied, just we will take an example for it with respect to an automotive application. I'll just play a video for you. So can any one of you acknowledge, or are you able to hear the sound from the video?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes,
So
thank
from
you.
the video.
Please observe the video. I'll be asking questions from this video because we are going to talk about the design. So please observe the video clearly. Okay. Participants, can you share your views on the video which I have played? So how embedded is playing a role in this particular automotive sector? Can any one of you volunteers? What you observed from this video? So where embedded is playing a role in this automotive sector? I'm repeating the question again. Can any one of you share your answers?
Most of the systems are embedded, ma'am.
Yeah, can you please mention any one or two, for instance, madam?
Opening the trunk, opening the rear door,
Yeah.
keyless start.
Yes.
Everything.
Yes, thank you, ma'am. Thank you for your response. So actually, the thing is, when you just look at the opening of the video, when the lady, she is coming, whenever she is close to some distance with respect to the car, a welcome light was given. It is based on embedded only, based on the distance measurement. Based on the distance measurement, anybody, it is not anybody, only the vehicle owner. How it is detecting the vehicle owner? She is having a mobilizer with her. If the mobilizer is detected within a particular distance, what happens? It is giving a welcome light. When she is closer to some more distance, then it is making the driver arrangements. When she is coming back to the trunk, what happens? Without any sensor, because the mobilizer is close to them, right? So that the trunk is opening and she is keeping everything there, and she is close to the rear door. The door is automatically opening, that is unlocked. She is opening and keeping everything. And the immobilizer, that is the mobilizer, she is keeping it in the backside of the car, that is the rear door, and she is getting in. So once she is going to start the car, this mobilizer has to be deactivated. Then only she can start the car. So these are all the parts which are working with respect to your embedded applications. Without embedded, this is impossible. Any queries? So shall I continue, ma'am?
Yes, ma'am, you can continue.
Yeah. So when we talk about this functional block diagram, we talked about the major parts, input, process, and the output. So that's what I have just explained it in a much clear way. So the sensor is going to be the input element. This input element, you are going to give it to the process element is your microcontroller. In this, you will be getting one more part as a ADC and DAC. That is, I hope you all know about this. ADC, that is your analog to digital conversion techniques, as well as digital to analog conversion techniques. Why this part is included with respect to the microcontroller is all about, we have two types of sensors. One can be a digital sensor and the other can be an analog sensor. Microcontroller can accept only digital signal. Then if I have an analog sensor, for example, we talked about the distance measurement of the women who's coming closer to the car. It is all about the analog measurement. That analog value has to be converted into digital with the help of different techniques we have. ADC, for example, successive approximation, R/2R method. All these techniques you will be using to convert this analog value into a digital value, and it is fed to your microcontroller. This microcontroller, again, what it will do, it will actuate the output. Output is going to be your actuator. The actuator can be an analog actuator or it can be a digital actuator. For example, when you are just going to switch on and switch off a lamp, like a car light which has to be activated, that is, it should be in on condition, then it is a digital part. When you talk about the motor, that is, it should rotate, right? Then it requires an analog signal. Microcontroller cannot give you analog signal. It needs to be converted. The successive values, that is the whatever the digital value you are getting, the equivalent analog value has to be converted into the required value, and it has to be fed to the actuator part. For example, if you take a motor, the digital value has to be converted into the equivalent of the analog voltage value. According to the voltage value, this actuator is going to speed up. So that depends upon the output part. This is about the functional block diagram description. Now, we are all having a question. So how are you going to become a software engineer? I want to become an embedded software engineer. So I should know only about the softwares. Is it so? No, it's not like that. So what are all the skills you require? Can any one of you just post your answers? Can you just post your thoughts? What may be the skills which will be required by an embedded software engineer based on the inputs which I have given in the previous session for the past 15 minutes? Can any one of you share what may be the skill you require? Participants, can you share any idea? Anything is okay.
We need both hardware and software knowledge, ma'am.
Absolutely, ma'am. Absolutely. Awesome. Your answer is right. So you should have both hardware as well as software knowledge. Any other answers? Any other answers? Okay. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. So I'll go ahead. The major part is going to be your programming skill. So programming skill is all about C, embedded C. It can be embedded C or it can be assembly level programming. Am I audible clearly, ma'am?
Yes, ma'am, you're audible.
I'm getting an echo sound, that's why I'm asking.
Your voice is audible, ma'am.
Okay, so you should have embedded C knowledge, or if you're going to work with assembly level, then it is also fine. So you should have a programming skill knowledge. With respect to the programming skill knowledge, you should have the proper understanding of the hardware, not only about the hardware and its accessory components also you should have. For example, if you're going with the distance measurement as an example, because we have shown the video, right? So I'm just taking the same example. If you are going to measure the distance, what can be the sensor? How it is going to convert it into a distance quantity? What are all the parts which are present in that? What are all the electronics parts which are present? For example, if you are going to take a distance measurement, we always talk about the ultrasonic sensor. How this ultrasonic sensor is going to work? It is going to convert the sound waves. Whatever sound waves you are receiving, that sound waves are converted into distance. How it is based on the how much speed I am getting this signal. What is the sound, speed of sound in air? All these things are, you have to take it into consideration. Then only you will be able to understand how are you going to get the proper prescribed output, that is the actuator that has to be working. So all these things are based on the understanding of your hardware components. You should be having much knowledge about this hardware components. Without knowledge about this hardware components, if you are having only programming skill, it is no use of it. So you should have both programming skill as well as you should have the hardware understanding also. When you have these two things, one more thing which came into picture, which is your real-time operating system. RTOS also needs to be done. Why? Because, for example, if you're just taking a mobile phone as an example, just take, I'm just playing a video. I'm just playing a video in my mobile. So suddenly if I'm getting a call, what will happen? Suddenly if I'm getting a call, what will happen to the call? For example, what will happen to the call if I'm going with a video? So what will happen? Anybody else can share? If you're going with a video playing, if you are getting a call, what will happen to the video?
Video will be freezed.
Video will be? Yes, ma'am. Can you please come again? Video will be?
Video will be stopped, ma'am. Only the
Yes.
call become.
Yeah, your video will be passed. Your video will be passed and you will be getting the call. You are answering for it. Either it is you are answering for it or not answering. That doesn't matter. Once if the call is disconnected, what will happen? You will be able to resume the video from where you have stopped. It is all about your scheduling of your tasks. The task which we have scheduled is if I'm getting, because major priority, whatever I have given is, if I'm getting a call, the major priority is for the call. It's not for the video. If you suppose go with the SMS, if you are getting a short message service, so what happens? It is not bothering. So the video will play automatically and you will be having getting a message that you got a message. That's all. So it's all about the priority which we are scheduling. It is the priority can be scheduled with respect to your real-time operating system. It is going to, what to say, it is going to separate. It is going to, in clear manner, we will be calling it as you are going to segregate your components as small components and you are going to give priority for which component, which is going to be the major task and which is going to be my minor task. Based on that, this real-time operating system scheduling can be done. Because of this scheduling, you will be able to achieve without any buffer, because buffer makes the time delay. So I don't want any buffer. As soon as I got an instruction, I need to react. So then you need to segregate your components into small partitions and accordingly you need to schedule. These are all the three major skills you require when you are going to be an embedded programmer. So we talked about the hardware. Major thing in respect to your hardware, you need to know about the frequency of your crystal when you are going with programming and what are all the IO pins, that is your input output pins you will be having for the microcontroller. The specific microcontroller which I have chosen, how many digital pins are there? How many analog pins are there? What is the crystal frequency of it? And what is the transmission and receiving pin details? How many pins I have? So if we go with some of the microcontrollers, you will be having analog pins as a separate part and digital pins as a separate part. Some may be used as analog as well as digital. Then in that sense, what needs to be done? So all these things are, first, if you have some of the added advantageous knowledge about this hardware, then you will be able to program for it in a perfect manner. So that's what you should have clear understanding about the hardware. Then talk about the programming part. What are all the requirements you need for programming? So you require an environment for programming and a tool is required for programming. Environment is nothing but it's going to be an integrated development environment. So why you are calling it as an integrated development environment? Everything is integrated together. In that environment, you are going to compile, you are going to debug, everything is done. You will be having a window. So in that window, you are going to type your programs or whatever programs you want to test. You will be able to do everything in a single environment only. So that's why we are calling it as an integrated development environment. This is the environment where you are going to program. But I have the environment. Where is the tool? So you require a tool, right? So your embedded C is or assembly. Those of the things are going to be the tool for the programmer. If I want to talk about this programming part, I should have some understanding about the hardware. I previously pitched in this point. So you have proper understanding about the hardware, you know how to program for it. Now the programming environment is also ready for you. So with respect to that, you will be able to achieve the task whatever you are having. So let's talk about the different integrated development environment providers by the microcontroller. It is all about, we talk clearly about the hardware and software. Those of the things has to be co-designed. So then your integrated development environment is going to be a dependent on your hardware. If I want to work on with Atmel manufacturer, then I need to go with Keil. Keil is the IDE I need to use, because this Atmel has some inbuilt functions which are interfaced with this integrated development environment. That is the supporting files which are present in this. Then I need to choose this environment only. If I want to go with microchip, then what is the thing? I'll not be able to find any of the functions in this Keil for this microchip. Microchip has its own independent IDE, which is the MPLAB IDE. So this integrated development environment has the all supporting files for this microchip software, that is your hardware. When we talk about other Renesas is going to be one more big giant in the electronics industry. So they are going with E2 Studio. So you can program for the Renesas with respect to E2 Studio, or you can go with CubeSuite Plus. These two IDEs are dedicated for this Renesas controller. And when we talk about Texas Instruments, they are also the leading giant in the electronics industry. They are what to say, in the market from the beginning. So what about their particular IDE? They have two IDEs. One is your Code Composer Studio. This is your Code Composer Studio. And one more IDE which is present, which is the Energia. Energia is similar to that of your Arduino IDE, how you can work all those instructions which are available in default. You can just go and pick it up and work on it, just like your Arduino. So you can work on Energia. When we go with what is the purpose of this IDE? We are talking about IDE. Why this IDE is required? I already told you this is a coding tool which will help you to write your program on the environment. As a text box, you will be having a text box. In that you will be writing your code. Whatever logic you know, you will be able to write it on it. And you can test the same thing on the IDE itself. And how you are going to debug. If you are having some errors with some of the parts, you will be able to debug also. That depends upon the IDE provider. Some of the IDE provider will provide you debug tool. Some of them will not provide the debug tool. That depends upon the environment providers. But majorly these three parts, we are going with the integrated development environment. What is the process of development? How this integrated development environment will help you to embed your software code into the hardware. We talked about embedded system. It is the integration of your hardware and firmware development. Firmware development is your software code development. So I'm going to do all the software codes in the integrated development environment. I'm opening a text editor. I'm writing all my logics in this. And this is as per my human understandable language. But the machine cannot understand what I'm writing. It requires a compiler to convert it into a machine understandable language. As we all are aware of it, microcontroller can accept only hexadecimal code. But whatever I'm writing is in C. So this C has to be converted into, that is, you would translate. You have to translate your code into a machine understandable language, that is your opcode, hexadecimal code. So once it is done with the help of the compiler, this compiler is present in the IDE itself. You will be able to debug for the codes with the hardware. Hardware is nothing but it is going to be an emulator. Before getting into the final board, first we will test it with the emulator base. This emulator is also a hardware part. You will be able to, where you will be able to debug your codes, logic, step-by-step manner. In a step-by-step manner, you can debug your code with respect to the emulator. So even if you are going with the IDE, you have a debug tool. When you go with debug option by step-by-step manner or step-over function, I will show you how to go with step-by-step manner or step-over function with respect to IDE in the forthcoming slides. So this debug option will help you to go with the hardware integration with the software also. Once this is tested perfectly, my code is error free, that is bug free, then I can transfer the program, that is your code, you can flash it into the real target system. So from the emulator tester, I can go with the functional microcontroller chip production. So how are you going to flash? You can flash it via two techniques. One can be USB ASP converter, or it can be a direct USB conversion. USB ASP converter, which will make you, because your system will be having a USB, right? So that has to be connected to the microcontroller via ASP or ISP, in circuit serial programmer. You can go with ISP controllers, ISP also. So in circuit serial programmer. So via a USB, you are going to transfer your code from the system to the ISP. In circuit serial programmer will transfer that into the microcontroller chip. Once it is done and it is checked with the final board, if the code is error free, then they can go with the production ramp up. Otherwise, they will go with the previous process. They will check what went wrong and they will rectify it, again test the same. This is just a cyclic process. This is what we talked about. It should be a cyclic process. It should not be a waterfall model. So this is about the process of development with respect to your embedded system. So we will have a Q&A session as a relaxation session. So can you post your answers on the chat box? Kalivani ma'am, can you please acknowledge me for how many people have answered the questions? Okay. So what is the sequence with respect to your functional stages of an embedded system? Participants, kindly post your answers on the chat box. Kalivani ma'am, are you there?
Ma'am, most of them have typed B.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, participants. Thank you for the wonderful response. It's right. Your correct answer is B. And the second question is, what is an IDE? What is an IDE? Please post your answers on the chat box. Kindly post your answers on the chat box.
The answers are D, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Most of them.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. We will go with one more question. Is your IDE independent of hardware? Kindly post your answers. Participants, please interact.
Most of them have typed false.
Sorry, ma'am.
Most of them have typed B, ma'am. B option.
B.
Very few,
Yes.
1 or 2 have typed.
Yes, yes. The answer is right, because I told you clearly it is all about hardware and software has to be co-designed. Then your IDE is not independent of hardware. Thank you. Thank you, participants. Thank you for your response. Fantastic answers. Thank you. We will just go with the sessions again. So let's talk about one of the tasks. That is, for example, I'll play a video. I want to achieve this dedicated task with the help of a microcontroller. How am I able to do? How am I going to do? I'll just play this video. I want all the lights to be switched on and switched off with a 1 second delay. So how am I going to do with respect to programming part? First, we will check with the programming part. What are all the steps we are going to proceed for designing this? First, you need to understand the hardware design. And second part is you have to choose your IDE according to the hardware you have selected. You have to select your integrated development environment according to the hardware selection. Then you can develop your logic and you can debug the logic which you have created. You can simulate it into the virtual environment. After simulated it in the virtual environment, you can test it in real-time systems. This is the step which we will be following. This is the proof of concept. We will call it as POC, proof of concept. These are all the stages we will be taking care when we are going to design a system. Okay, so first part is you are understanding the hardware design. For example, I am going to have, for example, 8 lights. I'm going to have 8 LEDs. All these 8 LEDs are connected to this. This is the hardware design which will be given by the hardware engineer to a software developer. What I will be able to do from this, I need to understand where the output elements are present and where the crystal is, how much is the frequency of the crystal. 11.0592 megahertz. And what is the controller? AT89C51. So for this controller, what is the IDE I need to use? What is the IDE I need to select? So all these things, if you know the hardware design only, you will be able to choose it. Otherwise, you will not be able to choose. Okay, so once the hardware design is done clearly, then you can go with the selection of your IDE. For example, AT89C51 is the controller. I have taken it as just as an example. So for doing this, I'm going to select Kale IDE. So how am I going to create a new project for development of my code? So I'll just play a step-by-step manner. You can go to Kale Integrated Development Environment. I'm just going to the project tab. I'm going to open a new Microvision project. I'm going with new Microvision project. So now I am going to create a separate folder for storing all those files because it will be having more linker files. So you need to have a separate folder, then only all the linking parts will be done properly. If you're not doing it, you will not be able to get your hexadecimal file because we are going to write it in C or assembly. That needs to be converted into hexadecimal. So how it is done? Because the compiler is going to do. Okay, then let's go with the microcontroller selection. What is the hardware I am going to select? So that hardware is going to be AT89C51. I told you IDE is dependent on hardware. So after selection of that, it is asking the startup files. Shall I add the startup files? Once the startup files are added, you can have a project window on the left hand side. In that, the startup files which will be stored there. So are you able to see it? So once I have selected everything, now I can go with the logic code development. I am going to find new window. So here I am opening a new text window. I'm going to save this file with .c extension because I'm going to write it in C language, embedded C. So I'm just going with .c extension. If you are going with assembly level, you can go with .asm extension. So once it is done, now I need to go with the source group. So here I'm going with options for source group 1. Here you will be having C51 or A51. C51 is your C based, A51 is assembly based. Whatever you require, you will be able to select. Now I'm going with the options for target 1. Here you need to input the crystal frequency from the hardware you have selected. So 11.0592 is the crystal frequency. And you need to go with the output. Purposely, I'm not going to click this create hex. So just I'm leaving it as it is. Now, if I go with a project is created and a C file is separately created. Now I need to add the C file into this project tab. Then only I will be able to build the target files. So before building the target files, I'm going with add existing files. So after that, I'm going to add this .c extension file. You will be able to see you have added the .c file here. So once it is done, now you can go with building of target. So you'll be able to see at the down your project, program size, and what is the code and what was the time which was taken. Now I'm going with embedded programming folder. So I'm going with listing options. I'm not able to find any hexadecimal file. And if I go with objects also, I'm not able to find any hexadecimal file. So now I can go again to the same Kale. Now I'm going with source group and target. So you are going to create your hex file. I'm checking that box and giving OK. Now if I rebuild the target, I'll be able to see creating hex file in the objects folder as a test. So now you will be able to go and check with the folder. In the listings, I'm not finding. I can go with objects folder. I'm able to find text.hex hexadecimal file was created. Whatever I'm writing in C, it will be converted into hexadecimal file with the help of the compiler. This is how your project has to be created. Now I know how to create a project. Now, how are you going to implement your logic into it? That's what we are going to talk about. So shall I go ahead? Anybody has any queries till this? How to create a project? Shall I go ahead? Ma'am, any response in the chat window? Okay, go ahead. Anybody has any?
Please proceed.
Yeah, sure. Okay, thank you. So before getting into the logic, how am I going to write the logic? Before that, you should understand what is the structure of programming, what needs to be done. So once you know the structure of programming, then only you will be able to write your logics. So very first part is your comment section. Why you require a comment section? So different developers will be involved in different projects. In that case, what needs to be done? If somebody is coming there and he is taking the project wherever before the person who left out, so we should know, we should understand what is the program and what is the task they have created, where this variables are used, where this section has to be implemented. All these things you should have. So it's just a guideline for you. This comment section will not be processed in your programming tool. It's just like it will leave it as it is. So for comment section is for just the understanding of the programmer. And the second part is your pre-processor directives. Pre-processor directive is nothing but the startup files which will be placed in that directive only. If you include that, then you will be able to find the programming part as a successful. Otherwise, you will not be able to compile your programs like how you do with your C programming. ANSYS, if you are not including #include stdio dot, right? So that header file, that is your standard input output header file, is not included. You will not be able to process anything. Like that, you should have some pre-processor directives, that is the startup files. Once it is done, then you can go with the IO configuration. We talked about this earlier, analog as well as digital. We can have analog input or digital input, anything is possible. So how many inputs and how many outputs are required, all these things has to be configured in a proper manner. After configuration of this only, you will be able to go with the declaration of this variable. Either I'm going to work with a global variable as a declaration or a local variable declaration. That depends upon the programmer. And once declaration is done, you can go with the main function creation. Inside that main function, you can go with the logic creation. And you should not, your program should have only one main function, and it can have any number of sub functions. But a main function cannot be called inside a sub function, but you can call n number of sub functions inside a main function. This is about your structure of programming. When we learn the structure of programming, we can go with development of code and debug of code for the application which I have shown. LED, all 8 LEDs has to be switched on and switched off with a particular delay of period. So now I am going to demonstrate you how to write a program for it. We talked about in the earlier session, first thing has to be a comment section. Comment section has to be influenced. How are you going to give the comment section? It is with double slash. So that is your forward slash. It's not a backslash, it's a forward slash. When you give double forward slash and write something, that will be in green color. So that is, it is not going to execute those of the lines. So I'm just giving you program to blink a light or a LED. So these are all the comment section. So inside the comment section, see, I'm going to include the preprocessor directive. What is the directive? So I'm going to add, before that, I'm giving the comment section itself, include preprocessor directive. Then #include, that is the command. But before that, I'm having a command that is #include preprocessor directives. That is going to be your comment section. I have included the header file. After header file, I need to have the declaration. What is the declaration I'm going to have for this particular program? So declaration of your global variables. I'm going to declare 2 variables. One can be a unsigned integer I, j. 2 variables as globally I have declared. So and it is of the function unsigned. It is not a signed int, it is a unsigned integer. Now after declaration, I need to have a main function. So I'm going to have a main function here. Inside the main function, void main. So I'm going to write void main. Inside the main, I'm going to write my logic. For example, P1, port 1. Port 1 has 8 pins. It is given as a value of 0x00. 0x00 means all will be in off condition. I'm giving a sub function. I'm calling a sub function delay, but I have not given it previously. I can declare it in the downstairs. So P1, again, port 1 is made high, 0xFF. F of is All 8 pins are in on condition. And again, I'm giving a delay. And now I'm going to write the sub function, that is your delay function, sub function. What is the delay function? So your sub function is delay, void delay. So inside void delay, I'm going with 2 for loops. For loops, how your for loop statement will be for initialization with some limitation and increment, either increment operation or decrement operation is the standard format for that. I'm calling a for loop inside a for loop. So this loop will be executed for 1000 into 1000 times. So 1000 into 1000 is, you can calculate that many times it will be executed. So now I don't call the sub function. I'm just going to just save it and I'm going to compile it. Just go with build your target. So I'm just going to rebuild all target files. I'll be getting an error. See, you are able to see relay redefinition because always your program starts from the main function. P1 is 0x00, it is executed, but delay was not called previously. So it is giving an error. Now you will be able to find, now if I am calling the function previously and I am just building the target, I'm able to do it, right? So if not, I'm not going to call it. You can just call, or you can make your initialization of the sub function before the main function also. That is also possible. So this is the one more part. Now my code is error free. Development is completed. How are you going to debug? Now I'm going to debug, start my debug session. Yes. So you will be able to have a pointer here, right? Right now the pointer is at P1. So I'm just going with IO ports, port 1 I'm taking. This is a debugger tool. Now I am going with step over function. Right now this P1 was not executed. Wherever the pointer was, it was not executed. Once the pointer was executed means P1 will be in green. So now it is going with P1 is still 0 because delay was maintained. Now P1 is full F. Now the same delay which will be maintained. If I want to make this loop to be in a continuous manner, then what I need to do is I need to add inside the main function to be a while condition. If I give a while condition, this will be on repetitive process. So this is how you can debug in the software environment itself. You can check either whatever logic I have given is working perfectly or not. So that is how we are going with. Now, if we see this, for example, whatever we have seen is all on or off. No, I want to simulate a situation like this. Just see. All the lights has to be switched on with a delay. This should be a forward shift and a backward shift. How am I able to do? The same thing. So how are you going to do? See, you can see in the program itself, you have a preprocessor directive. I'm having a delay sub function. Here I'm having a main function. In this main function, I'm writing some logic. According to the logic, I'm able to achieve my part. See, I'm going to build the file. I'll debug the code for you now. I'm going with debug. So I have taken 2 ports, P1 alone. So now are you able to see? It was shifting bit by bit.
Sorry for disturbing.
Yes, ma'am.
Can you make a slideshow of your picture, please? Because it is very small, we're not able to view.
Actually, it is a video, ma'am. So you are not able to view it.
Yeah, it is very, very small. Like
One
it is
second,
minimized
so
and
maybe,
we're not. Sorry, thank you.
it's okay, ma'am. Maybe you can see it here. So when I dump that program, it is going to be in the same sequence. This is how you can debug. You can debug your session. Whatever I have debugged, it is working in the virtual environment. I'm simulating it in a virtual part. Maybe I'll just, one sec.
Hello, ma'am.
One second, ma'am. I'm taking it from the software itself. Maybe that will help you. Because they are not able to see. Somebody is presenting. Can you please stop it? Mr. Thirumalai, can you please stop it so that I can present it? Thank you. You are able to see it, ma'am, now?
Ma'am.
Yeah, we are able to see, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes. I'll just add the file again and show you again. So how are you going to shift it? See, I have added this forward and backward file. Whatever file I have added it here, you are able to see it. So it is about the delay function. After the delay function, I am having a main function. So here it needs to be shifted, right? So I'm going to debug this particular session, this particular program. I have rebuilt it. Yes, it was compiled, linking, and it has created a hex file. You are able to see it has created a hexadecimal file. Now I'm going with debug session. Debug port 1 alone I have taken. Are you able to see it, ma'am, now clearly? Shall I zoom it?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now I go with step over. So what is the statement which was executed was P1 is equal to 0xFF was executed already. So the file, whatever you are seeing, the port 1 is in 0xFF. Now it is in the stage of the for loop needs to be executed. So if I give F10, so the for loop was executed. This particular statement was not executed again still. Now it needs to be executed. Once it was executed, one thing was in off condition. And if I go with again, second bit will be moved. Third, fourth, fifth. So bit by bit, you can make it on or off. That depends upon the programmer. For example, I can go with, so if I give 0x00, I'm making it 0x00. So what will happen? Just see. First, you need to build the target. Once the target is built, you can go with the debug session. And here I'm giving whatever is not there, that will be converted, not off. Compiling, and after compilation, it has linked. Now hexadecimal file will be created. Now I don't have any errors. Now I go with debug. See, the same thing I'm going to execute. Step over. So F10. See, you are able to see bit by bit. A different was there, right? So you can simulate whatever scenario you require. You can simulate it according to your requirement. So this is how you can debug with the software environment. So I'll go with the presentation again. Is it okay, ma'am? Somebody has given it's not visible. Now is it okay?
Yes, ma'am. Very clear, ma'am.
Okay. So shall I go ahead?
Yes, ma'am.
If suppose,
Yes, ma'am.
is the PPT visible, ma'am?
Yes,
now? Okay. If I have a scenario like this, I need to design a system for a traffic light control. What needs to be done? So how many inputs are required? How many outputs are required? All these things you need to go with that. If it is a 4-way road, how many signals you will be having? 1, 2, 3, 4. So 4 roads. So you'll be having 12 LEDs, right? Each of the lane will be having 3 LEDs because one for stop and the other for slow down and the other for go. So 4 into 3, 12 LEDs are required. Each port will have only 8 pins. Then what I will be doing? I'll go with the second port. Port 0, if I take 8 pins, remaining 4 pins, I can go with port 1. That depends upon the hardware as well as it is the software engineer who is going to decide from the hardware diagram which you have received from the hardware engineer. According to the hardware requirement only, you are going to write your program. So now you are just how to create in a simulation virtual environment, because as a individual part. Yes,
Ma'am, you haven't shared your screen yet.
that's what I have asked, ma'am. Is it clear or not?
Yes.
One second.
Okay. Ma'am.
Is the screen visible now, ma'am?
Yes, ma'am. Now it's there.
Yeah. So maybe this particular part. So I talked about this. You will be having a 4-way road which will be consisting of signals. So each signal will be for each lane will be having 3 LEDs. So totally we talked about 12 LEDs are required. 12 lights are required. How are you going to design? See, previously I talked about how are you going to simulate with the IDE, integrated development environment, and how are you going to debug it. So you can debug everything. So now your program is ready and you have simulated in the programming environment only. Now, how do I check with the virtual environment? For this example, I am taken this virtual environment as an example, because previously you know how to debug, how to code your logic, everything is done there. Now we are getting into the simulation, virtual simulation tool, which is your Proteus. So how am I going to do? So just as a 1-lane example I have taken, because I don't have enough time to explain for all those 4 lanes. So where to get it? We have to go with the pick from the libraries. In this library, you have to select AT89C51, which is the controller. So I have selected that. I'm going to give OK. If you give OK, that will be added on the left side of your screen. You are able to see it. Now, after that, I require a traffic light. So I'm just giving traffic light. So traffic light was selected, which is having a 3 inbuilt module with the virtual simulation tool. All these 2 are right now added to my module. Now I have to just drag and drop here. I can just drag it and drop it here. Now you need to connect. I'm just taking the traffic light, dragging and dropping it here. Now we need to connect. So how are we going to connect? So any port, whatever port, that depends upon the programmer, and with respect to the hardware environment only, we need to do it. So I have connected it. So port 1.0, 1.1 and 1.2 I'm going to connect. These 3 things connected to 3 LEDs or the 3 lights. Now I need to dump the program which was converted into hexadecimal code, right? You know how to convert your logic into a hexadecimal code with the compiler. Now you need to right click on the component and you can go with the program file, select it. What is the hexadecimal file you are going to load? Traffic light hexadecimal file I am going to load. I'm just going to give open. If you give open, that particular file will be loaded. And you have to give the clock frequency as properly 11.0592. That was the clock frequency. I'm giving OK. Now, after completion of your hexadecimal code was loaded, you can simulate it. You can go to the down tab and you can play it. When you play, whatever logic you have created, you will be able to simulate it. It is showing the currently loaded components. So once you play it, this is how you need to connect it. And you have to load your hexadecimal file. Once it is loaded and if you go with the play option, you will be able to simulate whatever situation you have created. This is just to take how to pick it from the library and how to connect it and how to load the hexadecimal file in your virtual environment. This is just a demonstration of it. Now let's go with, after implementation of it and virtual demonstration, once you are ready with that virtual demonstration, everything is okay, then you can go with the proof of concept demonstration. This is how you have to demonstrate it. You can just take all these parts and you can just demonstrate it with the proof of concept kit. After it is done, then you can go with the realistic design of the system. I hope you are able to see the difference in the different lanes. Lane 2 is in green, so they can go. Now lane 3 will change to green and others will be in red. This is how your system has to be proved. This is the design and your implementation part. Now shall we go the Q&A session? Kalimani ma'am, can you please help me in getting the answers? How do you represent your command lines in programming and why it is required?
Option C, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
I've posted option C.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you all for, thank you, ma'am and sirs. Thank you for your answers. So it's C. The second question, programming, embedded programming is independent of the hardware. Is it independent of the hardware?
False. Many of them given the answer false.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. False is the correct answer. And the next question, how many options are available to declare a variable in your C programming? How many options are available to declare a variable?
Option A, ma'am. They are given option A, most of them.
No, it's not option A. It should be option B, because your variable can be a global variable or a local variable. Any of the one is possible. So local variable or a global variable. So its answer is B. Thank you. And the last question is, what kind of extension file is to be loaded to the microcontroller? Please post your answers.
Option B, ma'am. Most of them are posted option B.
Option
D, last option.
D. Yes, yes. Thank you. So it should be a hexadecimal file, but we are writing it in .c extension that will be converted into hexadecimal file with the help of the compiler which is present in the integrated development environment. So let's get into a case study how we are going to design a system. You observe this video and tell me at the end what is I hope from this video you have understood how embedded is contributing for the manufacturing application. Manufacturing industries are using embedded programming for their applications also. For example, if you take this particular automotive industry, They are using this laser technology for printing on the rim as well as on the switches also. These are all the automotive parts which are packed or prepared with the help of embedded by the use of laser technology. Your laser or the laser light which was controlled with the help of embedded systems. When it should be on, when it should be off, what is the intensity it required. So all these things are taken into consideration, and this particular technology is used in automotive industry. The same laser technology which is used in packaging applications also, you will be able to see some of the applications, some of the components here with some packaging parts. So here these parts are going to be, these things which are printed has to be a permanent marking. It should not be a temporary, like how you are seeing your keypad mobile. When you use it for a long time, what will happen? The printing on the keypad will go off. This is because it is based on screen printing technology. But if you go with this laser, it is going to be a permanent. For example, if you go with your engines and all these numbers are to be a permanent numbers. It should not go off over a period of time, right? So for that, they are using this laser technology. In this laser technology, we will be using the same machine both for marking purpose as well as engraving purpose. I will tell you what is engraving and what is marking in the forthcoming parts. Before that, we'll just get into this laser applications in different industries. When you go with medical metal applications, all those instruments which we are seeing will be having the marking. All these metals are marked or engraved based on the laser technology only. When you go with some of the cutting tools which they are using in machines, right? So that is mechanical machines and all, they are using this laser technology for printing all these and to remove a particular portion with a particular dimension of exact size. All these things are possible only with respect to laser, because it is more accurate, because embedded is going to be a dedicated task performer, and you will be able to achieve the time delay with some of the timer and counter which is present in the microcontroller. With respect to that, you will be able to achieve perfect time period. For example, this particular part has to be engraved only for a period of 0.5 microseconds. It will be engraved for 0.5 microseconds only, because the input you are going to receive for the actuator is from the microcontroller. It is able to control the device of its own with a predetermined time period. That's why we are getting into embedded for most of the industrial applications. We go with keypads, right? So if you go with permanent marking of these keypads, you will be able to perform. But when you go with screen printing, it will go off in a period of time. When you go with costly mobiles and all, this particular thing will be constant. It is because of the laser technology. And you go with electrical electronic equipment, you will be able to see, as most of you are from electrical and electronics discipline, you have seen the IC marking, which is based on your laser technology. You will be able to see it. It is a permanent one. It will never go off. How will you find the number of the ICs? What is the IC which I'm just having on my hand? You will be able to see with respect to the IC top, right? It is based on laser technology. Everything is working on laser, and you will be able to see some of the promotional gifts also, and names which are engraved on the wood or any other material which is of permanent nature. You can go with engraving technology. And traceability, like your barcodes, how it is generated, it can be done with the help of laser technology, because this barcode has to be a permanent one, means I can go with laser technology. So now I have told you how to cater for the manufacturing application in different sectors. Now in order to achieve this, I want to make a engraving and a marking machine with embedded domain. What are all the requirements I will be able to have? What needs to be done to design the system? Anybody have any thoughts on your mind? I have told you this is how my requirement needs to be, because always the customer will share the requirement only to you, because you are the solution provider. You are going to provide solution based on the technology as the subject matter expert. So how are you going to provide? Anybody has any views on you? I told you it is going to be a laser based. Any idea? Am I clear in my question? Every one of you have understood my question? Yes, ma'am. Anybody has any idea? Can you please post your answers on the chat box? Any answers? Camera-based bar printer.
Ma'am,
Sorry, ma'am.
Ma'am, I have a question. That's a
Yeah,
doubt.
sure, ma'am. I can help you. Tell me.
In case of printing, we are using laser, ma'am. For reading the barcode or this we are going for.
Sorry, you are talking about reading the barcode. I'm just talking about how to create a barcode with laser.
Okay, you are asking only about the printing of barcode.
Yes, I'm not asking about the printing. Just you can take any example. For example, you can just think of, I want to engrave something on a metal for giving as a gift to some of my close people. For example, you are going to give some gift to the persons who are coming as a chief guest to your college function, anything it can be, with their college logo and your vision and mission that needs to be printed. So you want to achieve this with embedded. How are you going to do? The very best part is, what I talked about is you can use laser for doing this. But if I want to design the system, what can be the requirements? Am I clear in my question?
Yes, ma'am, you are clear in your question.
Yes. Can anyone of you have any ideas? If you are having any ideas, please expose. No hesitations. Please share your answers. Anybody? Or shall I go ahead? Kalaimani ma'am, shall I go ahead, or anybody is giving
go
me
ahead,
answers?
ma'am. I think I didn't have.
Okay. So what I need to do for marking? For marking, I need majorly 3 components. One is going to be the surface. In what surface I am going to mark, that is one. Based on the surface selection only, I need to select the tool. Tool is your laser. If the surface I'm going to select as a paper, the intensity or the wavelength of the laser can be smaller. If I go with some of the metal, I can go with major, that is the wavelength requirement will be of more compared to the paper. So these 2 things I have to take it into consideration. And the third thing, with whom I'm going to control this laser, that is all about the heart of the system, which is the brain of the system, which is your microcontroller. These are all the 3 elements which I require majorly for designing this system. So shall I go ahead? And what is the role of this particular brain of the system? What it is going to do? I told you this is majorly going to control the element, which is your laser. So it is all about what are all the parameters it needs to control. It needs to control the moving direction. Either it needs to move in X, Y, or Z. That depends upon the controller, whatever command I'm going to give. And what is the intensity I require? Either it needs to be in much intense with respect to some area, some area can have minimum intensity. That can also be controlled via your microcontroller. And the major third part is the speed of movement. How much speed I require. It needs to move. For example, I told you clearly, you can use the same machine as a engraving as well as marking. First, you should understand what is engraving and what is marking. Marking is nothing but just you are having a paper and pen and a scale with you. If I ask you to mark the margin, you will be doing it, right? If I want you to do the same thing, engrave it means you need to do it lot more times. So with the same scale and pencil, if you do it again and again, that particular portion will be removed. That is nothing but a removal of a portion of a particular metal or a particular piece is nothing but engraving. So with the marking machine itself, you will be able to do the engraving, like how your rings are engraved with your names. It is nothing but portion of removal of the particular metal from the particular portion, whatever character I require. So this is about the role of the controller. Same machine I'm using both for marking as well as engraving. These are all the 3 major parameters I'm going to control with the microcontroller. With respect to that, I'm able to operate the same machine as a engraving machine as well as a marking machine. So this is the particular, if I'm getting from the customer, I need to mark my logo with the machine. So how am I going to do? First, you need to understand what are all the input, and this is about the requirement from the customer, and this is the hardware which was designed by the hardware engineer. Now you need to write program for operation of this hardware. How are you going to do? First, understand this particular thing. How many input elements are there? How many motors are present? How many switches are present? How many sensors are present? All these things you have to take it into consideration. Read the hardware structure properly. For example, if you go with this, I'm having a X switch here. This is your X plus switch and this is your X minus switch. If the laser is moving in the forward direction means from left to right, it will be going in this direction. Once it reaches its end, it need not to go further, right? So what protective equipment I have a limit switch here. If the limit switch is hit, what happens? I need to come back to my original position or home position, or I need to stop. This was the information which we need to give to the microcontroller by means of programming. If I want to do this particular part, this particular logo engraving, TVS training and services, there was a space between TVS as well as space training, and the and services should come in the second line. So after training is completed, what needs to be done? It needs to come back to the second line. So that means it needs to come back to the minus X margin, and it needs to move in the Y margin for some distance, and it needs to come to this particular position and it need to print it. So if suppose if I want to print this itself, T, how T will be done? T has to move in the right direction. After T is done, it needs to come for the half of the distance here, and during that period it should be in off condition. If if the laser is in on condition, then what will happen? It will be engraved again. Then the portion of T is T compared to this portion. What will be there? It will be much thicker compared to this, right? So all these things are considering. You need to consider during your programming. Maybe I will play you a video of how this is done so that you can understand, have a better understanding of this. There was a switching between your on time and off time. You are able to see. So this is how your laser will be moving from X to minus X or minus Y to plus Y. Depends upon the programmer. You need to test it for a lot more times to achieve your task. It should be in the center of the paper. So all these things are done with respect to your programming environment. I'm playing it again. And there will be, so for example, this S and this S needs to be in the same font, right? It should not differ. Then how I need to do? So this S should be same of this. Whatever that is distance or whatever measurement I have given for this S, same measurement I have to give. For example, in between E and S, I have given some space. During that space, the laser should not be in on condition. So all these things are taken into consideration when you are going with programming part. Shall we go with one more case study? Are we having time?
Yes, ma'am, you can go.
Yeah. So the second, are you having any queries with respect to case study 1, laser marking and engraving machine? Anybody has any queries? Any queries? No? No questions? Okay. So if suppose if I want to design a weather station, so what will be the requirement for me? What are all the things I need to consider for designing a weather station? Any inputs? With respect to embedded, just think of, we talked about input, process, output. So what can be the requirement for this weather station? This weather station should be able to display what is the present temperature and humidity. I'm just giving you a hint. So for that, what is the requirement?
There are answers like temperature sensor, sensing temperature,
Yes,
and
ma'am.
controllers.
Thank you. Yes, yes. You require a temperature sensor. For example, it should, if suppose if I name it as real-time weather station, then it should require the time period of the temperature which they have encountered. So which is all about sensors, controller, and you should have a display for doing the output. And all these has to operate with the help of a power supply module. These are all the functional elements you require. For example, we are talking about temperature and humidity sensor. For example, you can go with LM35 or DHT11 or DHT22, any sensor you can interface here to the microcontroller, and the display has to be any display. It can be a LCD display, it can be a TFT display, it can be a LED display, that depends upon the user, right? And if suppose I talked about real time, means I require what is the time, what is the date, and what is the day. So for that I am going to utilize RTC, real time clock, which is DS1307, or it can be 1308, anything it can be. That depends upon the user who is going to select. So how are you going to design the system? We talked about the virtual demonstration, right? I have selected the hardware. I have selected what are all the components for the hardware. I know what is the controller. I have developed the code. Everything is ready, but I cannot implement it in real time. Very first thing, I need to interface it with a virtual environment, find it how am I able to get what is the target and what is the requirement for the customer. Once it is done, then you can go with the real-time testing. First, I am just explaining you about the real-time test, virtual environment testing. So here, first, only thing is I'm going to interface a microcontroller with a 7-segment display. For example, DHT11 as a temperature sensor, which will tell you what is the temperature. The controller which I have used is different, PIC16F877A, which is going to be a microchip family. For this, I have to use MPLAB-X IDE. The IDE is going to differ according to the integrated development environment which you have chosen. Okay, sorry, your hardware which you have chosen, the integrated development environment depends on the hardware which you have chosen. Okay. I'm just demonstrating you how I have interfaced a DHT11 sensor. See, you are able to see DHT11 sensor there. I'm going to go with hexadecimal file loaded. Now I'm going to play. So right now the temperature is 27. See, sensor will provide data according to the physical environment. Now I'm virtually selecting it, right? So I'm going to change something in the environment, that is the sensor. I'm practically changing it, and either I'm getting the same thing. This particular sensor is feeding the data to the microcontroller. From the microcontroller, I'm getting the information via the digital display. So if I change it, it should give the same value here, because it is not about physical interfacing with respect to virtual environment. That's why we have changed it. I'm checking for it. Either I'm able to see. So once the data is processed, I have changed it to 31. Now let's see, either I'm able to get 31 or not over a period of time, because it will take some time period for doing all this. Yes, I'm getting 31 degrees Celsius. So whatever input from the controller, that is from the sensor I'm giving, is given to the controller, and the same data I'm able to get from the virtual environment on the digital display, that is your 7-segment display. Then my sensor interfacing is perfectly working. And the second part is I'm going to work on with the real-time date time, right? So now let's check with the RTC. How am I interfacing? So same RTC hexadecimal file. I'm selecting. See this, I'm checking it. Right now the time is, here it's showing 12:22, 12:23. There will be a delay of minimum of 10 to 15 seconds. Yes, you are getting 12:23. So whatever time I have given, I'm able to get it on the particular 7 segment. So I have tested it in virtual environment for both real-time data from the sensor as well as from the RTC clock, that is your real-time clock. Both are perfectly working. Now I'm going with the real-time demonstration. I'm going to test it with respect to the display. See, the display which I have used is about a LED display, P10 LED display. In this, first, what is the sequence which we have arrived as? First, a welcome message will be given. After that, the date, time as well as the day will be shown. Finally, your temperature, that is your humidity and the temperature will be shown. This is how I have programmed it, and the demonstration part of it, before that I have virtually demonstrated. Once virtual demonstration is done, then I can go with the hardware design with real-time implementation. So you are able to see the sensor here. This is the DHT11 sensor and this is your DS1307. So it's giving you a time period, time, as well as day and date will be shown. This was the date and day. And what was the temperature? And what was the humidity at present at that time? This is how you have to design a system. First, select hardware. Again, in repeating, select your hardware. According to the hardware, select your IDE. Then write your logic there. Debug it in the software environment. Then go for the virtual environment. Interface your programming as well as with the hardware. Once it is done, yes, I don't have any error. I'm bug free. My program is bug free. Then you can go with the real-time implementation of this system. Any queries? Any queries right now? Any questions? Any questions? Shall I go ahead?
Yes, ma'am, you can proceed, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. If I go with this particular auto parking application, you can just, I'll play a video, just hold on with this.
Automatic Parking Assist automatically searches for and steers the vehicle into an available parallel or perpendicular parking spot. The feature uses multiple ultrasonic sensors. At low speed, the front side sensors are used to search for possible parking spots. To begin searching for a parking spot, press the Automatic Parking Assist button. To cancel search, press this button again. To switch between parking sides, use the turn signal. After completely passing a large enough spot, an audible beep occurs and the vehicle system display will notify you when to stop the vehicle. When instructed, shift to reverse and remove hands from the vibrating steering wheel. Release the brakes to allow the vehicle to begin parking. A progress arrow displays the status of the parking maneuver. Be prepared to accelerate and brake as needed to avoid vehicles, pedestrians, or other objects. When changing gears, allow the automatic steering to complete before continuing the parking maneuver. When automatic parking is done, the system displays a message, beeps, and automatic steering ends. Shift the vehicle to park. Regular parking assist beeps or safety alert seat pulses will also occur during automatic parking. During the search process, press and hold the APA button to switch between parallel and perpendicular parking modes. If additional maneuvers are required, follow the instructions in the system display. Just remember, keep your hands off of the wheel while the system is automatically steering. And remember to brake.
So this is how your automatic car parking system works. So it requires some of the sensors to take decision on its mode based on the embedded system. So what may be the sensor which it require? For example, we talked about this functional block diagram again. So it is requiring a ultrasonic sensor both on the front as well as on the rear as well as on the sides. So it can be a ultrasonic sensor or it can be a IR sensor. It depends upon the user as well as the designer. If I want to check only the parking spot on the sides, then if you are going with what to say parallel parking, it's not about perpendicular parking. Parallel parking means I need to find only either the spot is available or not. Then for that I can go with infrared radiation, that is your IR sensor. IR sensor will find either the obstacle which is present or not. So that is useful for it. But when I go with perpendicular parking, then I need to find the distance also. Then for that purpose, you should have ultrasonic sensor both on the sides as well as on the front as well as on the rear. So it depends upon the requirement of the system design. The instance which I have given previously about your IR selection, where to select your IR and where to select your ultrasonic sensor. If we talk about this ultrasonic sensor, what is present in ultrasonic sensor? For example, if I take HCSR04, which is having 4 pins. One pin will be the supply pin and the other pin will be the ground pin. As you know, all electronic components require a supply and ground. Other than that, it requires the input and the output pin. So trigger as well as echo. Trigger is going to be your input pin and echo is going to be the output pin. I talked about this ultrasonic sensor previously, how it is going to take these sound waves and convert it into distance, right? So this is how we are going to talk about. It is going to give a trigger pulse. Once the trigger pulse is received, it needs to find how the speed was, how was the speed of travel of sound. Is it much faster or slower? It is much faster means the distance is closer. If it is slower, the distance is farther. It depends upon the echo signal which was generated by the particular sensor. So it has its transmitter. It is a this particular ultrasonic sensor is having a transmitter and a receiver. This transmitter always transmits a signal. If the obstacle which is present is close to the particular distance, within the specified distance, means this transmitter will revert the receiver. That is the signal which will be received by the receiver as a reflecting sensor. Based on the distance between this signal receiving between the transmitter and receiver, the speed can be calculated. According to the speed, you can go with the distance calculation. So how are you going to do? So it is all about, first you need to give a trigger pulse. Trigger pulse is given by means of your trigger pin. How are you going to give? A 10 microsecond trigger pulse is always required by this ultrasonic sensor. Once a 10 microsecond trigger pulse which will be provided by the microcontroller, this particular ultrasonic sensor itself will generate 40 kilohertz frequency of ultrasonic waves into the air, because it needs to collect it from the air again, right? For that, the components which are electronic components which are present in this ultrasonic sensor will generate a 40 kilohertz frequency ultrasonic waves into the air. Once this is done, it starts to take the time period from the echo pin, how much time it is taking to leave and return back the signal. The transmitter is giving and the receiver is going to receive. How much time it is taking to receive the signal. All these things has to be calculated. This you have to do with the test and measurement equipment. Once it is done, you will be able to convert this into distance based on the speed of the air. So for example, you can just go with, based on this particular part, you have selected, for example, the distance up to 10 centimeter, this ultrasonic sensor can detect. If it is within 10 centimeter, it needs to stop the vehicle. If it is close to 5 centimeter, it can stop the vehicle. That depends upon the user, that is the programmer. I have programmed it, for example, if the obstacle is close to 10 centimeter from my sensor, it needs to stop. Or you can program, if the obstacle is close to 7 centimeter, then it stop the vehicle. But it can alert me when it is close to 10 centimeter itself. It can alert, that's all, it cannot stop. But when it is close to 7 centimeter, it can stop. That depends upon the programmer who is going to program for it. You can just have an example for this. This distance was much closer because it was programmed like that. It is much farther, closer. See, they are measuring the distance. I'm going to test for it. Yes, the car was stopped. right? So it depends upon the programmer. How am I going to program with the conditions? If you know the hardware properly, then only you will be able to test for the conditions, different conditions. So for example, you can go with one more sensor, which is a PIR sensor based on the motion. If the obstacle which is present on the road is in motion, then it needs to be detected. You can use PIR sensor, which is a passive infrared sensor, which is working with pyroelectric sensor. It is having a pyroelectric sensor which is present on it, and it can have a widened lens, that is your Fresnel lens, which can widen the range of the sensor based on the requirement. So how this pyroelectric sensor is going to work? It can detect the heat signature, that is a thermal radiation based effect from the humans as well as on the animals. It depends on that it is going to work. I talked about the Fresnel lens. This Fresnel lens is in oval shape, this dome like the shape, right, which will make you to widen the range of your sensor. It can scatter that images. So how it is going to work? It has two major portions. We will talk about these portions here. It is split into two halves for the detecting area. If one of the area which is receiving the motion is not in coherence with respect to the second area, then there will be a difference in the signal. If both are having same, then there is no motion within this particular period. For example, the positive half cycle and negative half cycle are similar, means then there is motion in this particular area. If there is a difference in this positive half and, for example, this half and this half, then there is a motion present. The radiation which was received by these two regions, which was one is greater than the other, then there is a motion which is present. We will illustrate it with a demonstration. So with just Arduino, I'm just giving you this particular part. See, whatever we have programmed is, if the PIR sensor signal is high, it needs to make the LED on. See, right now there is no motion, so the LED is off. Now I'm going to change the motion. See, if I change it, there will be a difference in the IR radiation between the two regions, right? Just go and check. See, I'm going to change. There will be a difference in the radiation between two halves, right? So if we change it, you are able to see the value is 1 and the LED is glowing. If I keep it as it is, then there will not be any change between those of the two areas. Then it will be in off condition. Again, it will go to off. Yes. So this is how you can work on with your PIR sensor. So these are all the technologies which can simulate you in virtual environment before getting into the real-time system design. What are all the scope for the engineers who are getting this embedded software developer, how they will be going to place in the industry? All industries are now, and getting a voice. Anybody wants to convey anything? Or can you please unmute yourself? So if you go with automation, all companies are working towards automation, and the emerging technology which we are seeing is about Industry 4.0. Industry 4.0 is working with Internet of Things. Internet of Things, for Internet of Things, this embedded system is going to be the bond base for it. Without this base, you can't get into Internet of Things. If Internet of Things is not there, Industry 4.0 is possible. Hence, embedded is going to be the blooming technology in the industry side. So this is how my conclusion will be. So I thank everyone for your patience to listen to my session, and I'm open for any queries. Participants, you can just post your queries, or you can unmute yourself and you can ask questions. I can answer for your questions. Any questions from the participants end?
No queries, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. Any questions from the participants end? Yes, ma'am. You can open your questions. I'm open for answering.
There are no questions yet, ma'am. I think they are Very clear with your presentation.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am, for the really very wonderful and informative session.
Thank
That
you,
was
ma'am.
really a very fantastic session for all of us. Thank you once again for joining us to share your valuable time and knowledge for us.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. And
Thank you, ma'am.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, ma'am. I got one question from Mr. Patabi Raman.
Yes.
How to control servo motor using 8089C51? Yes, sir. I'm answering for your question. So your servo motor will be having three major pins. One will be your supply pin, and the other will be your ground pin, and one more pin is your PWM, which is your pulse width modulation. You need to give the input via pulses. So, Patabiraman sir, I'm answering for your question. So you need to give the input via pulses, which is based on the on time and off time period. That is the duty cycle. Based on the duty cycle only, you can operate your servo motor. So it will be having different, angles for different pulse time period. For example, if you go with 0 degree to 90 degree, the pulse period can be greater than 2 microsecond or 2.5 microsecond. If you go to the data sheet of the servo motor, whatever you are going to use, they will be specifying for moving from 0 degree to Jebo Jonak, ma'am. Can you please unmute yourself? Yes, ma'am. So if you just go to the data sheet and if you read it, you will be able to find what is the time period and what is the angle. All these things you will be able to find from the data sheet. So once if you find it from the data sheet, you can incorporate in the programming. It is all about only the on time and off time, which is duty cycle. I talked about duty cycle. For example, if I use P1.0 is used as a pulse width modulation pin. If I'm going to use it means 50% duty cycle means for 50% means 0.5 seconds on, 0.5 seconds off. If you are going with 30% duty cycle, 0.3 seconds on, 0.7 seconds off. So that depends upon the duration delay you are going to give. I hope I have answered your question, Patabiraman sir. Can you please acknowledge? Thank you, sir.
Ma'am, one more question, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Which is the best method to write the programming for delay? There are various ways to write delay programming. So
Yeah.
which is the best method which will be very accurate?
That depends upon when you use timers, then only it is a perfect delay period. If you go with some of the subroutines with the different variables creation, if you create different variables and if you create delay, it is inaccurate. When you go with timer, you have to read the timers properly. What is the time period, how the crystal frequency is, and what is the mode I'm going to select. All these things you have to read properly. If you use timers, you will be able to 100% you will be able to get most accurate result from the delay. For delay, you have to use your timer. When to switch on my timer, when I need to run my timer, when the flag will be overset. All these things you have to do the mathematical calculations and arrive at your programming. Then it will be easy for you to get the proper delay period.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you.
There's
Yes, sir.
another question,
Patabiraman
ma'am.
sir, I got one more question from Patabiraman sir. Can you explain me the split timer mode in 8051? Yes, sir. So it's a wide topic. I'll just give you some gist about it. Split timer mode is all about you are going to have, it is an 8-bit timer mode. So for example, if you have higher register and lower order register, you have to input your values only on the lower order register, and once it is reset, or once the flag overflows, then what happens, it will get into the higher order register, and it will be stored again. Your lower order register will start working on the same delay. This is how you can use your timer as a counter with respect to your split timer mode. That is the split timer mode operation. So if you work on practically, you will be able to see it with respect to the calculations and all. It's a very huge topic. So I have just given a gist of it. I hope I have answered your questions. Any example, that depends. For example, I am going to switch on the motor for 0.5 seconds, and it needs to be done only for 10 times. Then you can go with this. So 0.5 seconds on, 0.5 seconds on, like that. You can do it only for 10 times. After that, it doesn't bother about it. It needs to stop. So in that sense, you can use split timer mode. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you for your answer. Thank you for your response. Any other questions from the participants end? Can you please post your questions on the chat box so that I will answer for your questions. I'm open for the questions. Any questions? Vanita ma'am, over to you. I'm not getting any
Ma'am,
answers.
if you would like to share anything with the participants, ma'am, you can share.
No, ma'am, I don't have anything. Already I have talked for 2 hours. So
Yes.
I think I have given my best. Maybe hope participants, you will get some information from this session and you will utilize this for your, training your students. So I hope this was an informative session for you people. I got some information, some messages in the chat box. It was informative. Yes, I'm over to you, ma'am. Thank you, Vanita, ma'am.
Somebody else has asked, Mr. Selvi
Yeah,
Kumar has
Mr.
asked,
Selvi
can you
Kumar.
explain wall printer used in embedded
Used in
systems?
embedded systems. Sir, it is all about the technology which we are using. What is the input which we are going to take from the sensor based on the sensors, and how are you going to make it on the programming aspect with respect to your microcontrollers? Accordingly, you have to have this as a Mula mantra, like input, process, and output. For getting this, you have to first consider what is the output I need to get. This is the output I need to get. Okay, so for that, what are all the things I need to retrieve from the external environment? Once these two things are targeted, then you will be able to write your program and you will be able to visualize it by means of experience only. By experience, you will be able to get. So it is not about a wall printer, it is not about a wall clock, or it is not about any application. It is depending on the physical activity which we are going to get, physical environment parameters that needs to be linked with the output. If these two are done and if it is properly done, then you can go with the programming part. This is how you have to design your system. It is all about that's what we are calling it as dedicated system, dedicated task. So it is all about the dedicated application, what is the function of it, how it is going to function with the information and with the components. This is how you need to design your system. I hope I have answered your question, Selva Kumar sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Any other questions?
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Vanita ma'am. Thank you.
Really interesting, and you have clarified almost all the doubts which we had, ma'am. Thank you so much for accepting and joining us, ma'am. Yeah.
Thank you,
now, participants, the quiz link posted in the chat. Kindly fill the link and submit it with correct mail ID by 8 p.m. today. Tomorrow's session will start at 10 a.m. sharp with the same Google Meet link. Expecting all of you to join on time. Tomorrow's session will be handled by Professor Radhakrishnan, College of Engineering, Anna University, Chennai, on the topic real-time systems. Participants, fill the feedback link and submit it by 8 p.m. today. Thank you all for joining us today. Ma'am, thank you so much once again, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am. Can I hear any of the feedback from the participants in? Just any one person, how was the session, how it will be helpful for you in your engineering field? Can any one of you please share?
Ma'am, the screen printing what you shared was really good. First thing, laser printing, how it is done according to distance as well as the intensity and the spacing with respect to the diagram what you showed with how it goes to the end and comes back again to print it, and that was really very good. Second example, well, the first example what you showed was with simulation with traffic light. How it is done in the real time, I think we would implement the same for students also.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, Akila, ma'am. Thank you.
These two things are really was with the simulation was really good, and it is very very interesting. Like because in the afternoon session to take this hour is very difficult because no one would be listening like in the afternoon. But really, you made it really well, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, Akila, ma'am. Thank you for your response.
That's what real-time examples. It was so interesting.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
Anybody else could share your feedback, please? Yes, ma'am. It's over for now. Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Sivaranjani, ma'am.
Thank you, Vanitha ma'am. Thank you, Kalivani ma'am. Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
So we will wind up the session, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes,
Sure.
ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you all.
Participants, kindly submit your feedback link on time. Thank you all.